Hello everyone watching at home, welcome to round 3 of the Adelaide Eternal Legacy Challenge coverage for November 2019. I'm Sarven McLinton, in the booth with me is Beckett, Wolfe.
G'day guys.
So we have two players on the screen. On the left is me, and I am on Grixis Delver, and on the right is Raj. He's on Death and Taxes. We've seen Raj in the last round, so whilst his list is up on the screen, if you want to get a better feel for what the Death and Taxes deck looks like in practice, go and check out round 2. In short, you tax your opponent's mana, and you turn some small creatures sideways and protect them and win the game, right? Sounds pretty straightforward to me.
Let's talk about your list,
Alright, that's my player profile. Surprise. And we can go straight to the list.
Sorry.
So,
It's just one too many. You know?
Well, I'm trying to get one today as well.
Are they dated as well? Like, do we, a lot of these are historical wins you're playing profile.
Definitely dating back to 2017 or something like that. Whenever Adelaide Eternal was started, I have to do maybe some journey down memory lane and do some Adelaide Eternal history video somewhere. We can do that. Pull out some archival footage, colorized. So this is my deck. I'm on Grixis Delver. Grixis Delver, there's many different ways that you can build it. You can lean heavier on Brazen Borrowers, you can lean heavier on Dreadhorde Arcanists and Thought Scours and Gurmag Anglers. I am kind of sitting somewhere in between the two of them.
I was about to say, I really like your split. Just personally. I think it's a personal choice.
Yeah, it could go either way. I wanted to go to 4 Dreadhordes, and I noticed that the 4 Dreadhorde decks were running 3 Gurmags, and I went, I really don't want to play Thought Scour, because Thought Scour is inherently a bad card. You've heard it here. It's hot take. The card is bad. However, it's necessary. You often just have to play it. If you're playing a deck with 3 Gurmag Anglers, you're going to need 3 to 4 Thought Scours. If you're playing a deck with 4 Dreadhorde Arcanists, you're going to need more cantrips. And a lot of the time those cantrips overlap, and the overlap right there is Thought Scour. However, I prefer to have good cards, and I have decided to play 3 Preordain. Now, Preordain by itself is just yet another of these blue soup, cantrips, and Preordain just gives you a sometimes better brainstorm, but for the most part, it's just the 9th to 11th version of a cantrip that you're going to be casting with Dreadhorde Arcanist or filling your graveyard with for one of the two Gurmag Anglers. Now, Dreadhorde Arcanist can also be built with Reanimate, where you have the Reanimate in there to cast your opponent's big threat, but often you just want a card to flashback with Dreadhorde. Unlike Dark Confidant, if Dreadhorde doesn't have fuel, Dreadhorde doesn't give you cards. And your Reanimate, if you cast an early Dreadhorde that gets lightning bolted, your second Dreadhorde attacks, casts Reanimate, and returns the first Dreadhorde. And you just kind of go off to the races there. But I personally found that card to be a little bit too all in on that plan, and I decided to just play cards that are always relevant. So I've got a bunch of 1/1 splits there. 1 Force of Negation, 1 Tyrant Scorn, 1 Angras Rampage. Tyrant Scorn does not have synergy with Dreadhorde Arcanist in terms of the flashback, but sometimes you just need more than the 12 threats that you have, and Tyrant Scorn represents a 13th threat, because you can return that Dreadhorde Arcanist to your hand in response to removal, or you can return the Brazen Borrower back to your hand and then use it to bounce one of their things, then replay the Brazen Borrower. So there's things you can do with it. Plus, I want to max out on the ways to not lose to that frustrating deck to lose to, Dark Depths. And three sources of bounce there with Brazen Borrowers and Tyrant Scorn and an Angras Rampage to sacrifice it if they don't have access to a Dryad Arbor at the time, just gives me more options to not die to that deck.
And no basics from you either.
No basics.
You've got I think the difference between this and other decks, you might be like, I want to play around back to basics. You just basically can't, and it's so important to get that turn 1 Delver and that turn 2 Dreadhorde. Like, you really can't be in a position where you're keeping a hand that's like, turn 1 Delver, turn 2 Dreadhorde, turn 3 True Name, not so much that you're curbing, but you have to be able to cast your spells.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and that's because people remove them.
So important.
People remove them. So if you have a Resolve Delver of Secrets turning sideways, you don't cast your Dreadhorde Arcanist. If you've got a Resolve Dreadhorde Arcanist, you don't cast your Gurmag. You just don't play a second threat. You're just going to protect that threat and ride it to victory, because that's how Delver works in principle. But the problem is, it's Legacy format is maximum removal. So you play a Delver, they kill it. So on turn 2, you need to be able to play your Arcanist. They kill it. So on turn 3, you need to be able to play your True Name or something.
I think where other decks might be able to slip and be like, oh, I wish I had double black so I could play my turn 3 Lily Last Hope. If you're in that position with this deck, you just lose.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm high on lands. I'm on 19 land, and most Delver decks in the past have historically been 18 land, except Bug Delver, which tends to run 20 land. But 19 is a sweet spot between the two, because you do actually have a high number of cantrips, and cycling through your deck is good, and then casting Brazen Borrowers on 3, you actually have quite a few 3s. You've got 3 3s, True Names, and Brazen Borrowers, so... it's nice to have that 19th land for those purposes. Funny you say about the non-basics, because I actually was trying to run one island over the fourth
I think
volcanic,
it's fine to run an island. I just mean that,
yeah, it's a cost. It's a cost that you pay.
Yeah, you're gonna... At the end, it's not incorrect to run basics, don't get me wrong, but certainly, my Grixis Delver list, not Delver, my Grixis control list is...
you want to run four basics.
Four basics.
4 to 5 basics, yeah for sure. Alright, let's go down to the match. Let's see where we're at. So I know the result of the game, so I'll probably, not allude to how it goes.
Or you'll try.
But I will try to get that trophy. I'm undefeated so far.
So we've got a hand with days, some ponders, not many lands, but I think you've got 2 ponders, which means you're probably decent. The question is, do you have a Delver?
Yeah, so
and a Vial's a really good start.
I think I would have shown my hand earlier, and I think it's because we were resolving mulligans, because Raj is on 6. So he leads off with an Aether Vial, and this is the best start he can have, because you can see now my daze is absolutely terrible, because normally you want the daze to stop the Aether Vial in turn 1, but when you're on the draw and your daze is there to then protect your threat, you play your Delver, and then they Swords to Plowshares it with 1 extra mana up. So you just... Daze is just so bad against Aether Vial on the draw. Really bad.
Yeah. And it switches off all weekend, I suppose, generally.
Yeah. Which is why I play Preordain here, because I do have Delver in hand, but I'm not going to play Delver into Swords to Plowshares, which is one of his worst cards, right? Swords to Plowshares on turn 2, and I can't counter it. That just seems very, very bad. So instead, Preordaining for more lands. You just want to make sure you hit that a lot. I believe it's a 2-land hand, and I just want to preordain for land number 3. You need to respect.
You've got a Wasteland.
Yeah, Wasteland, I think.
Yeah, and are you running Spell Pierce?
I'm not running Spell Pierce in this, but it tosses up in that 3rd Thoughtseize slot. So I'm running 3 Thoughtseize mainly because of the interaction with Dreadhorde Arcanist, and also preemptively putting cards in your graveyard for Gurmag Angler, because I don't have Thought Scour. That's at the pump fake. he turns the Aether Vial sideways to threaten a mum, and doesn't put anything to play. So thumbs up for me. You gotta do it.
You gotta show him who's boss.
That's it. So the Wasteland...
It's not good, is it?
No. He draws the Mother of Runes off the top, so we kind of laughed about that. But yeah, the Wasteland there was earmarked for the Rishadan Port, and you have to respect Rishadan Port. People don't respect it enough.
You gotta do it. Especially when he's got a Vial. It feels bad to Wasteland when he's got a Vial. But then that Rishadan Port is just going to keep eating your Volk, and you'd rather have a Volk up than a Wasteland up.
Yeah, and I'm really happy here that I kept I preordained turn 1 rather than the Delver, because I set up to get enough lands here, and now I'm on 3 land. So when you're on 3 land against Death and Taxes, you feel very good as a Delver player. You don't want 5 land, but when you're on 3 where you're like, yep, I can deploy a threat and hold up a counterspell or hold up a Tyrant Scorn, or...
Now, I've noticed you kept that. A Force of Will feels very good when you want to deploy a Delver this turn, but it can also feel bad versus a Vial. What's your logic?
Yeah,
do you like seeing Force there or not?
That Force of Will keep is literally for this.
The Bolt.
No, I don't know why I did that. It's literally for the Delver. So your opponent is going to have 4 Swords to Plowshares in the deck, and you can bank on them having a single Swords to Plowshares. So here's my hand.
So Delver,
Delver, and Brazen Borrower. I need to protect my threat, so having a Force of Will on the top of the deck ready to force,
And I guess you bolt there because it's your last opportunity to bolt.
Yeah, and a lot of the time, exactly. And otherwise, I would have loved to play Delver. A lot of the time, people don't respect that when you're playing Delver, people don't respect that you need to have your threat in play turning sideways, and they kind of get really, really greedy. I think the
trying to get like an extra 3 damage.
Yeah. So like they go, oh, I'll turn this sideways, and then they'll Swords of Plowshares it, and then I'll play my second one. Like that's your backup plan. Your primary plan is to play your threat number 1 and protect it, and then your backup plan is to play threat number 2. So yeah, I think it's really,
that's where the aggressiveness comes from, I guess.
Yeah,
because then you're every other deck, right? You're every other mid-range deck that's just and playing a creature and trading 1 for 1. Exactly,
playing a bad mid-range game. So my 2 days are going away now that nice hand. Now that the Aether Vial is on 3 and Raj has evidence that he's not going to play into days, the 2 days go back, and I have a desire to shuffle them. However, I'll probably have to end up drawing 1 because I don't believe I have a fetch. Oh no, I got a fetch land. Alright, it's moot. I did a 1-1 split. I think I put 1 days back and 1 Force of Will back or something like that. So then I end up having Force days as a split because there's always a chance that they play Council's Judgment in the main. I don't know if he is, but if you play your Delver and they use their Council's Judgment and you don't have the days to punish them, it can be a bit frustrating. So yeah, I think I must have put back land days because now I'm on my 3 land. Must have been keeping the other days for Force of Will fuel if the days never.
What do you think about? I like keeping Brazen Borrow for just A, generally it's fine and you want to do it later, and B, for the germ token. But what do you think about Brazen Borrowing the Aether Vial at some point to knock it back down from 3 to replay? Like it's cheap.
I like that.
Cheap card to recast,
because you're going to do it anyway. Like you're gonna be bouncing something, so you may as well bounce the Aether Vial. But remember that I know that he's got Batterskull in hand.
Yeah. I think the germ's correct here, but just generally, do you like the idea of?
In general, I like it.
Brazening a vial to, I guess.
I think there's so few things that you can brazen in their deck for good value that I think that's a worthwhile play. Because most of the time
I think you're always going to find something. Like I agree, you don't want to be brazening a Recruit of the Guard, but Thalia, there's a good example. Yeah, or a mum. Like, there's always something to brazen, I think.
Note that they can Swords to Plowshares their own guy in response and essentially kill your Brazen Borrower. It's a thing. So sometimes you just want to bounce artifacts. So you'll note here that I knew the Batterskull was going to come down, and so I elected that turn to aggressively dig, find a second threat, and deploy 2 Delver of Secrets. Because if he's attacking for 4 a turn and I'm attacking for 6, it's going to be... At least I'm getting some traction. But the main thing is my hand is double Brazen Borrower. So I needed to actually turn some things sideways so that I can play a tempo game. If I'm not playing a tempo game, it's bad. You'll note that I gesture here with both, and then I go, yeah, but you probably got Flicker Wisp because I haven't seen one. So I specifically said that. I'm like, you've probably got Flicker Wisp. I haven't seen one yet. So here we go.
But I guess, you're still committed to swinging.
Yeah, so like I have Thoughtseize in hand. If Thalia isn't out, I Thoughtseize him, and I force him to play the Flicker Wisp, and then I know that it's there. And then I still have the Brazen Borrower up to bounce something. However, because Thalia is out, I can't do that play, and I'm not going to Thoughtseize. That's just going to be a absolute waste of a turn here. Turns out he doesn't have Flicker Wisp, so it wasn't relevant anyway. But I was afraid of it, so...
So Alpha Strike here, I'm assuming Brazen Borrower on Germ, not on Batterskull?
Correct. So here you just want to slow him down, and Brazen Borrowing the Germ means that he's going to have to return Batterskull for 3 and then replay it for 2. It's way, way better than just bouncing the Batterskull and having them replay off.
Is Tomic a 2/3?
Tomic is a 2/3.
So he does block Delver.
Yeah, correct. Now that I have resolved the bounce off the Brazen Borrower, and I know he can't respond with STP and kill my 3/1 essentially. Now that I know I have that threat, it's perfectly legitimate to attack into Atomic.
Oh yeah, because you trade and then you've still got one.
Yeah. So it's still a tempo game. So like, there's someone might say use a Desperation bounce to bounce the Atomic, and then get in there. With the second Brazen Borrower, but remember that the life race is very, very relevant, and you'll be very careful.
Can you brazen the Batterskull in response?
Yeah, so...
but then I guess you lose both Delvers.
Yeah, so this was one of the things I was kind of really debating on. It's possible that the play is to bounce the Batterskull so that Raj has to commit an activation of Stoneforge Mystic the following turn. But the problem is if I do that, it uses up my turn.
So I guess you're in the same position if you just bounce it now, right?
Yeah. So
or if you bounce the germ. So
I basically gain no tempo that way. And I need to be on tempo, otherwise, what's the point of playing Delver? So the leaving yourself open the option to actually hard cast a 3/1 and then ride that one to victory. That's also very, very relevant.
But, yeah, I mean, he's got a bit of value here, but not heaps. Like, he's got value off the Stoneforge and a little bit off the Flicker Wisp, but so far you're not completely inundated in card advantage or anything like that. I think it's not looking good for you, but it's
definitely not looking
there's
good
still
for me.
hope.
Yeah,
Force of Will's not a great draw.
I end up drawing Force of Will here, and I'm like, I've been holding this one Force of Will all game to protect a threat at some point, but I draw the second Force of Will, and I'm like, oh no, this is not a good sign. But I'm able to, protect from a Swords to Plowshares if needed. The issue here is if he drops something off the Ether Vial, then I'm probably a goner. Just the amount of tempo I've lost is huge, but he ends up not having a 3-drop, so I end up having a little bit of breathing space there. Note that Dreadhorde Arcanist as a 1/3 is incredibly well positioned in the format. It just kind of blocks Thalia, which is one of the biggest thorns in the side of anyone playing blue. That it's just
you've got a bolt in your bin, don't you?
Yes. So you basically there's an issue here where I want to swing with it and bolt something, but if I swing and bolt, I pay 1 in the process, but also it bolts before he has to commit to an Ether Vial activation before blockers. So I have to decide what I kill, and I can't kill the thing that comes in with the Ether Vial. But he's evidence that he hasn't
didn't have it last turn.
Last turn.
So I think you have to, and you're far enough behind. I think you don't have the luxury of playing around a good draw from him.
But the other relevant thing is that I don't want to attack into the Batterskull. So, because he activates Stoneforge, he puts Batterskull in, and the lightning bolt that I play off the Dreadhorde has to resolve before the Batterskull needs to have anything happen. So, technically, I can't just bolt the token and then say, go on block, because then I'll trade my Dreadhorde with it. So, it's a very, very tough spot.
It is tough.
Yeah.
And I mean, I guess there's no urgency to kill the Thalia. Yes, it's taxing you, but arguably the Dreadhorde blocks the Thalia.
Yeah.
So besides the tax, you're already sort of soaking up that damage by keeping him back.
Correct. And I played a 4th land, which basically makes Thalia largely irrelevant to me. The other play here is this hidden mode, Brainstorm. So instead of trying to like do shenanigans with bolting things, it's just cast Brainstorm, because my hand's terrible, remember? It's just like force days or something. And then...
you got rid of the days, but I think there's too many forces in there.
There's definitely a days in there.
Oh, yeah, there is.
yeah. But yeah, there's way too many forces for the hand to be playable. So they're 2 days, back they go. Yeah, I've been kind of like stuck with these days in hand for the whole game, and credit to Raj has just been playing around the days. He's just assumed I had days, so he's just not casting spells. He's just going to leverage that Ether Vial, go slower.
Well, often it's easier to tell that they've got days than you'd think, because you can see, well, he's not deploying threats. I'm winning. He's not doing much. My opponent's not casting removal or interaction. Like, he must just actually have days.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm so far behind that I was really, really hoping the Brainstorm would find literally anything. I'm like, I just need a Gurmag Angler here, because the plan is like, attack this, my guy is going to die because it's just going to get blocked by the germ token. He's going to gain 4 life. But if I brainstorm into something bigger than the Batterskull, then my plan will pay off. And we'll find out whether or not I did, because I can't actually remember if I did.
Well,
I was actively thinking, like,
he's got
I need to find
lethal
Gurmag
here if you
Angler.
don't have anything at all. It's exactly 7, right?
Yeah, exactly. The 3/1 flyers don't cut it because they're like cloud sprites. So here you can see that I play this and I leave the 1 black open because Gurmag Angler is my only out. So I brainstormed for Gurmag, didn't find it. Now I've pondered, because I found that off the brainstorm, and I need to find, like, my only out is Gurmag, so that's why that 1 black source is left open.
But he's having a think.
So
surely it's either a snap shuffle or a snap keep.
Yeah, either there's a Gurmag Angler in there, or there isn't a Gurmag Angler in there, and I should shuffle it instantly. There
he is. Gurmy boy.
So the brainstorm into ponder paid off. So I threw away the 1/3 in order to try and find something, and I found a 5/5. So
Recruiter's probably going to be good enough, though. It's not
like
he has to swing into
close
you,
this game, right? Like, you can find, Mirror and Crusader or something. There's a lot of... Or Palace Jailer. Yeah, I'm just like, yeah, that's fine. We don't need to play this out, I say. He just finds recruits for Palace Jailer. He exiles my Gurmag Angler.
Yeah, and he can vial up to 4 guys. Just if you're thinking maybe he didn't draw the land.
Yes. Yeah.
So Raj there pointing out that he can vial up to 4.
Mm-hmm.
Well played.
It's,
I like it.
It's brutal though. Absolutely brutal. That Palace Jailer is... This is what... I think we were talking in round 2 about Palace Jailer in general being this card that is so insanely good at the right time that it feels busted. And then at other times you're like, should I even be playing this card in my deck? Like, it just feels so bad.
I had it in my Highlander deck and I ended up cutting it because... Like, I can remember vividly being so far ahead in some game and being like, I just drawn like a really good Palace Jailer. I'm going to cement it. I'm going to exile a creature. I'm going to get the mana. And then, like, something happened and they flashed in a guy. And then they got the creature back, which had an ETB effect. And then I could never get the Monarch back. And I lost and I was like, how did I lose that game?
Yeah. The Monarch wins the game for someone. That's the rule.
Yeah.
You just hope it's you. But... The Palace Jailer in Highlander, I think, is Highlander's such a different beast from Legacy that I think Palace Jailer's benefits are far outweighed by its detriments.
I think it's
giving people the Monarch is so much easier in Highlander because people don't really say it, but Highlander is a creature format. Even the control decks win with creatures. The only times that creatures aren't around the place are in very dedicated combo decks like Storm. And you'll be hard pressed to find a control mid-range tempo, like any kind of opponent that is not going to be able to steal that Monarch off you very easily. So I think it's just more of a liability in Highlander than it is in Legacy. But in Legacy, it's still a liability.
Well, yeah,
this is what comes in. 2 Abrades, 2 Plague Engineers, 1 Bitter Blossom, and Thoughtseize.
Thoughtseize coming in, that's interesting.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
I don't mind Thoughtseize in the matchup.
Because this is what comes out. So you always take out 3 forces, 1 daze, 1 force of negation, because I'm on the play, so I keep in 3 dazes. But the 6th card that I took out there was Wasteland. And the reason it took me like 2 minutes to sideboard there, because I was actively thinking... Do I stay at 4 Wasteland and I take out my 4th Force of Will? Or do I keep 1 Force of Will and take out 4th Wasteland? I am still not sure on which one is the correct decision here on the play, on tempo. Even thinking back from it now compared to then, I still don't know which one is correct. But I decided to take out the... one shave on Wasteland and keep a single Miser Force of Will, even though you saw how bad Force of Will was in that matchup.
I don't mind 1 force.
Yeah,
it keeps them scared if they see it for the 3rd game.
I mainly kept it in because I know that against Death and Taxes, they often have things like Gideon, Ally of Zendikar, or some other big haymaker 4-drop Planeswalker. And usually Gideon. And if you don't counter that, it's game over. But I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm on the play, so I should be able to
certainly
daze
don't
it.
want to ever be force pitching something like two. You don't want to be if you cast 2 force wheels versus death and
in
taxes.
the game. Yeah.
Then you're just
it's
like
over.
so far behind in card advantage. It's not funny.
Absolutely right.
It looks like a.
Yeah, it's terrible. It's terrible. Yeah, it's like Gurmag, Thought Seizers, my only land is a wasteland.
Why do you like Thought Seizers in this matchup?
Oh yeah, that's a really good question. So I go up to 4 Thought Seizers now, and because I'm on 3 in the main, 1 in the side. Now, against Death and Taxes, you don't know if they're playing Cavern of Souls. You know, a lot of the time nowadays they're not. But here I'm thinking he might be playing Cavern of Souls.
I think you might have even seen a Cavern.
Maybe between
yeah, you saw Cavern of Souls in game 1.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Between 4 Cavern of Souls, potentially, and 4 Aether Vials, the counterspell suite is very, very poor. Thoughtseize, however, on the play, I even keep it in the draw, but on the play, when you Thoughtseize them and take their, Mother of Runes, their Aether Vial, their, Batterskull, you just... Thoughtseize just hard answers things in a way that other cards can't. So Raj is putting away a Swords of Plowshares, so he's now on 1 Swords, 1 Aether Vial, and
it's an interesting point you make. It answers it in a way that other cards can't.
Yeah,
it's
and it
not
forces
so
them to
much
activate
that
Aether Vials at the wrong
that
time.
powerful, which it is powerful, but it's more that it answers it in ways that other cards can't. I really like that.
So people would put that third land away
as well.
So in that, with my mulligan, yeah, like, you're on Delver and you're like 3 land, 4 spells, and I'm like, this is not even a decision. I keep 3 land and I put a 4th spell away. Like, that's not a decision for me. I'm playing against Death and
Did you
Taxes.
keep one as Wasteland? Was one of your lands Wasteland or not? Or was it 3 fetches?
I think it's two fetches and a Underground Sea or something like that. But basically, yeah, I keep all your lands, and the way that you lose against Death and Taxes is usually because you don't hit your land drops, because they tax you. They're all about killing you to death whilst you're being taxed. So my Ponder reveals a Preordain, a land, and another cantrip or something. And cantrips are okay when in the play, because it takes some time to play some taxes. But on the draw, they're pretty clunky.
Well, the concept of like cantripping into more cantrips is, that's the idea of just too much air in your deck. But I think like in a game like this, you're in the play, like, they haven't really deployed anything yet. Like, it's fine.
Yeah.
Especially for Malta 6.
Yeah, absolutely. So
where you've gone exactly what we just talked about, where I want to keep 1 extra land, but I definitely don't want like to overcommit on land. So
yeah,
like what you're looking for to an extent.
Absolutely. So now here's my window. So remember how I said keep all your lands. So I kept all my lands, and of course, what's the best thing that you can do with 3 lands?
Ouch.
Yeah.
It's so good. Like it's not just a 2-for-1, right? Like it's more than a 2-for-1.
Yeah.
It just does everything.
Note that I'm down to 1 force in the deck, and often your plan is to play the Plague Engineer and then protect it from the Swords of Plowshares. But here I acknowledge...
You don't even need to.
Yeah,
like,
I acknowledge I'm going to get a 2-for-1, and I'm fine with that.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's already got that. It's already done its thing. And now it's a must answer. It's just a dumb 2/2 must answer.
Yeah, they answer it, and you're like, yeah, sure, that's fine. I'm going to 2-for-1 you in that process, and then play the actual threat that means anything. So when I preordain here, you always leave up your black source. The threat of a Gurmag Angler coming down before they play the Rest in Peace is better than the threat of playing an Arcanist. So, sometimes you leave your red open thinking, I'm going to play my Arcanist after this if I draw one. But in reality, Gurmag's scarier. Like, if you don't play Gurmag here, then, they play Rest in Peace, it's going to be pretty bad.
So again, this is digging for either like land Arcanist or land Gurmag?
Yep, one of those would be perfectly fine. So basically I need threats now. My 1 threat was killed.
Mind you, land Brazen Borrow is not terrible to go past the turn. They do something you can untap. You can end a turn Brazen and then untap and have another like suite of trying to deploy a threat or trying to like dig for a threat.
Absolutely. Just be.
And if you don't find it, you've got the threat in the Brazen Borrow itself.
Absolutely right. So here's the advantage of, remember how I said keep all your lands? This is the advantage of the lands. Like, I'm on 11 cantrips, so it's okay to just keep cantripping. And here I had brainstormed back to 2 bad cards to the top, and I get to ponder and shuffle them away. I'd prefer if it was a fetch land to do that, but the cost of not playing the ponder there is pretty high.
Okay.
Just drawing back into your terrible cards.
You look so far ahead here.
Yeah, and it's only because I kept my lands.
And you can see Raj, he could Wasteland here, but he can't really, like, maybe he can get you off black, I suppose. It's not terrible, but you can see, like, he didn't Wasteland, and I think that's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
Like, he's behind on lands, he's behind on board, I guess, assuming that you will hit a spell because you just cantrip so much. So you can assume that Sarv's going to hit a creature.
Yeah, that's it.
So you don't want to be Wastelanding there.
That's it. And last turn I went Preordain, Brainstorm, Ponder, Shuffle, and I'm just like, I just need to find a threat. Like, I don't care what the threat is, I just want to find a threat. And I've ended up finding, after 3 cantrips and shuffling, Trine Nemesis, and so I'm like, yep,
that's right.
Yeah, just going to jam this. Again, something you can't do without your lands. So,
very important. Going back to that Wasteland thing, I mean, we can see that maybe you would have got blown out by the Wasteland if you hit your underground.
Yeah,
but I think that's...
I can't play Bitter Blossom or True Name.
But I think that's Raj saying, like, hope is his plan. Like, he's trying... Yeah. He's hoping you don't have a backup land.
If he misses
he's hoping
land drops,
you don't have an Arcanist.
He's been missing land drops. What you want to do. It's very counterintuitive for him to go like, you're on 3 land, I'll go down to 1 land to Wasteland you, and my board is only a Mother of Runes, and I hope to draw out of it. The thing is, he's not going to draw out of it. I'm going to draw out of it because I've got 11 cantrips.
That's right. And you've just cantripped a bunch.
Yeah. So this part of the game is now largely academic. He needs 2 Council's Judgments to actually get through this, and he needs his Council's Judgments. I think I'm still favoured there. Like, I just keep a True Name Nemesis, and I keep a Bitter Blossom, and I keep a land.
Oh, and you get to daze it.
Yeah.
Return your land.
Exactly. So, like, Cataclysm just doesn't do it here. I'm mainly thinking, like, do you have Council's Judgment? And if you do, and you can see there he hesitated. So he was thinking about, if he had Council's Judgment, he was thinking about playing it, but it would be playing it into days. And I have the days, but the main thing is he chooses to play around the days. I'm happy with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
An uncast days that they play around is the same as like cast days, in some ways. And I'm just turning this True Name sideways, so... But the Atomic is actually really, really relevant because it blocks all the Bitter Blossom tokens. Oh. So it puts a clock on me, and you'll note that in my hand, I think my hand's like Bolt, Abrade, and...
Days.
Bolt, Abrade, Days, and Thoughtseize, something like that. There's no world you Thoughtseize, I don't believe. Because anything that they play is you're probably covered by Days. Like if they play Gideon Ally of Zendikar, you've got that covered next turn. The way you generally lose is if he somehow turns the corner and tempos me out. And the Thoughtseize is kind of like time walking myself twice.
I completely agree that I think you're covered by Days anyway. But I feel like I would still... I'm still going to win the race, right? So I'm still just going to be like, yeah, sure, like, whatever Thoughtseize.
I don't know. I think I just don't whatever Thoughtseize.
Don't get me wrong. My whatever Thoughtseize is exactly that. It's not like a great Thoughtseize, but like, yeah, you've certainly put thought into it, and I guess I agree, but I wouldn't have put as much thought and just been like, I'm not going to lose to tempo.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm like, how do I lose? I've just basically gone, how do I lose? I don't lose because I don't Thoughtseize you. I lose because you top deck a threat that's under Days and it just tempos me out. And as you can see, perfect example, you got Sophie that can actually tempo me, and I have to throw a Bitter Blossom token.
That's right, because Mum can give it pro black, can't it?
Yeah, and so he can just
Absolutely.
Go. Yeah.
It's a really good point. Your Mum can give it pro black, and then it can ping one of the other tokens, and you can start getting on top of it.
So if I had Thoughtseized, I'd actually potentially cost myself.
Yeah. You'd be down 2 more life, which is it doesn't seem that relevant.
Yeah, but I wouldn't. It's about to be a big
hit. That's right, and you wouldn't have hit anything.
Yeah.
That's right. And now you want the Thoughtseize to hit the good thing. I remember watching Isaac Egan hold Duresses for a really long time. I was like, why isn't he Duressing? Why isn't he Duressing? And he was Duressing because he was waiting till he's got a threat he wants to resolve, and then he did Duress, make sure that the way is clear, and now I know this threat. Like he put so much value on on the
It's like,
threat
I'm
that
gonna
is
win with
actually
this.
very relevant, rather than just being like, see your hand, take a card.
Yeah, people often just like to just jam that Thoughtseize. So here the patience paid off. He finally revealed something that I knew was actually going to change the dynamic of the game. And I'm like, well, now that I know you've got Batterskull, I'll take the Batterskull because you're not going to get any lifelink.
Sophie's still very good.
Yeah.
I think Batterskull is better though because he can supplement his life.
Yeah. So all he needs to do is race me, and I'm throwing a Bitter Blossom token into a Batterskull, and he's gaining life that I can't race with True Name Nemesis. So the Thoughtseize paid off again. Nice.
Oh, I think that's a decent land rip there.
Yeah, land is good for him here.
Yeah.
Being able to drop the Sophie and equip it and attack is pretty huge. He's going to be able to give protection from black to one.
You've got a lot of damage now. It's really racy, isn't it?
Correct.
I mean, we're talking a swing back for 5 because he's going to ping one of the critters, I assume.
And that's why you can
for 5 puts Raj in bolt range. Sorry.
Correct, and so that's why you can see how I just identified how I was going to lose and made sure that I didn't just play like a chump, just on autopilot, like the autopilot Thoughtseize.
I mean, there's
autopilot Abrade.
That would have been
Abrade this Tomic. Like how much would you have wanted to Abrade the Tomic?
I agree.
But exactly.
There was maybe an opportunity to Abrade the mums. I'm not sure, but I completely agree. Even if you take mums out of the equation there, as you say, you might be inclined to just 1 for 1, I'm ahead. But,
exactly, and so there I finally turned the Bitter Blossom token sideways and then bolted to the face. So a lot of the time you look at your bolt and you're like, I'm going to engineer a scenario where end of turn I Abrade your mum, go to my turn, then I lightning bolt the mum because it's now tabbed. And you kind of engineer these scenarios that you overthink, but in reality, as a tempo player, you need to identify your role in the match. And in that match there, the moment I landed the True Name Nemesis, my role was tempo. I'm no longer the control deck. I'm no longer caring about any card advantage that you can generate. I no longer care about trying to, 1 for 1 or 2 for 1 all your mums and all these kind of different things. I'm literally just killing you with True Name and anything that stops that plan
within 5 turns, 4 turns. And making sure you don't get lifelink.
If you stop that plan, okay, lifelink, I get rid of that. If this thing is going to change the tempo math whereby you win 1 turn earlier than me, like Sophie, we Abrade the Sophie. But either way, that lightning bolt sat in hand all day because it just, don't snap it off for no reason, and it end up being the game-winning spell. So, in the end here, on the draw, I take out all of my dazes. Because Daze is absolutely woeful in this matchup on the draw. On the draw,
absolutely.
So,
even if you look at that last game, you're on the play, and the Dazes never felt great, and not just because he played around them, not just because he had Vile, but I think you kept a land heavy hand as we discussed, but I think you wanted to get ahead on mana, like he was behind on mana. That's why he wasn't wastelanding you. So I completely agree. Daze is out on the draw.
Yep.
Are there any matchups you keep Daze out? Keep Daze in, like combo decks? Or?
Absolutely. Yeah. So against things like Storm, for example, great example. Against Storm on the draw, you keep all your Dazes in. That's how you generally lose the game. Is you play your threat, you turn it sideways, and then they go, I think I'll go off now, and you go, well, I only have 4 Force of Wills. I've used my Thoughtseize 2 turns earlier, but I've just got the 4 Force of Wills and 1 Force of Negation. So, there are matches where you do keep Dazes in the draw, but in fair matches, and especially this one, all the Dazes come out on the draw. In some matches, you keep in 1 Daze on the draw, but it depends on the match. The Delver mirrors are really interesting because each Delver deck is different, whether dazing or
right.
My hand is an interesting hand. I wonder if I'm going to ship that back.
You think in hindsight you should have?
Yeah, it's a 1-lander. And the 1 land is a Volk, but I have cantrips. So, the main thing here is if I ship it back and I try and find a hand with 3 land,
then you're probably down on gas.
I'm actually the main thing is that if I've got a hand with Brainstorm, Preordain, Ponder, etc., then I see
And I
more
think you just
cards.
ripped the Vault.
I did rip the Vault, which is why I played Delver.
Yeah.
So, yeah, otherwise I'd 100% just jam that Preordain turn one, make sure I find
if that
a
was
land.
Wasteland there.
If I was Wasteland, it's game over. In the end, I ended up drawing 2 land off the top, so I didn't actually have to use my Brainstorm, my Preordain, Ponder, and Brainstorm to find land number 2 or 3.
And here I said we take Sanctum Prelate just because there's 2 Flicker Wisps.
Yep. Now, this is a decision I have to make. Looking at that one, obviously looking at cute interactions in the future, but in reality, I want to take a Flicker Wisp. I just don't want to have a 3/1 flyer beating face. It just changes them into a tempo deck because they've got this protection from whatever with the Mother of Runes, and I'm turning my 3/1 sideways, and he actually becomes like he's got a protected Delver every turn. So I want to take Flicker Wisp, but because they've got Prelate, it's just a non-decision. And sometimes, Thought Seizers are non-decisions. You're like, oh, I want to do something, but I
Plus
just
there's
have to
2
do this.
Flicker Wisps, so they sort of, the diminishing returns, I
think,
a bit.
I don't know, I think 2 Flicker Wisps is scarier because the tempo is so huge.
I'll pay that. But
Flicker Wisp, just back-to-back Flicker Wisp is so much damage. An insane amount of damage. I drew Brazen Borrower. Now, Brazen Borrower is really, really good. I believe wait, what, is this the one?
The thing with the 2 Flicker Wisps, though, is if they've got a Flicker Wisp with Mum, you're now identifying a different way to win. I.e. via True Name or Gurmag or something like that, rather than via Delvers, or via Arcanist or something. So I feel like, one Flicker Wisp protected by Mum, you're now saying, Delver's not great. I'm gonna have to win with Gurmag, and there's no. You're more likely to get the Gurmag by taking Prelate, and being able to cantrip for it,
true.
Or being able to Dreadhorde Arcanist and cantrip for it, etc.
True. So I preordain here, and there's a Force of Will there. And note that obviously, because I'm on the draw now, I have more Force of Wills in the deck. So when you see a Force of Will in this position, it's kind of like, do you keep it because you're going to counter an equipment or a Planeswalker, or do you just bin it? And I'm pretty sure I just binned it.
Yeah, well, you just get further and further behind. You're like, I'm so scared of the next threat, but I'm also down on board. But then if you're forced pitching even just a cantrip, something innocuous like a cantrip, then you're not cantripping to get your way out of what's on the board.
Exactly. Now, my hand is absolute gas, but it's terrible against Mother of Runes. So I have 2 Abrades and a Brazen Borrower. For those at home, don't misplay and Brazen Borrower bounce Petty Theft your opponent's creature when there's a Mum active, because they'll just protection from Blue it, and you will no longer have a Brazen Borrower. So
did you do that?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
But I was thinking about it because I'm sitting there and I'm like, I really want to bounce, do the pump fake where you go, I'm going to bounce your Mother of Runes, and then they give it protection from blue, and then you abrade it. But I'm like, but then I lose my Brazen Borrower. That's really, really bad. So, yeah. Here comes the second Flicker Wisp. He gets to blink the Flicker Wisp and return it. So now he's got blockers for days.
And then that one blinks something else.
Yeah. The second blink. So he thinks about this and he goes like, do I blink your Black Source? Or do I? And I'm like, you don't blink the Dreadhorde Arcanist, and we had this kind of discussion about it, and I'm like, you're probably gonna just block this and protection from Reddit, and he's like, yeah, but if I protection from Reddit, you could kill it, and I'm like, yeah, fair point, and obviously I got 2 Abrades in hand, so he does the correct play, I believe here, which is blinking the Dreadhorde, which leads him to less blowouts, basically.
Now, are you looking for 4th land here to go Abrade? And then, technically, Abrade on Mum, it taps. Abrade on Mum in response, kill it. Untap, Brazen Borrower, and then play Bounce a Flicker Wisp, and then play the actual Borrower. Then you've dealt with the whole board.
I thought
Assuming you have 2 lands.
Yeah, I thought about that line, but I believe it's not a winning line for me. And as a Delver player, you should be thinking about what's your winning line rather than what's your manage the game state, manage the board, because that's very control-esque. Either way, I want the land. It's no matter which plan I'm in, I want the land. But my decision here is I need Plague Engineer. That's my...
Oh, that's
yeah.
a better one.
Yeah. So, like...
That's a crispier answer, I think.
Yeah, so, like, you know how you go play to your outs? When you're on a deck with 11 cantrips, sometimes you look at your hand and you're like, okay, I could do this Abrade. Like, you think about all these possible lines you can play, and you sometimes get too far into your head and too cute, and sometimes start thinking too much like a control player. And for me, I'm going, the way that I win this game is finding one of my
Is that just your way of justifying being a greedy boy?
Yeah, I guess I am a greedy boy. But yeah, I think if I find Plague Engineer, I basically can't lose. So I should probably use my Brainstorm and Preordain. As you can see, I've cantripped like 3 times.
He's not bad. Unfortunately, I like the clock's so real for Raj that it's like a bit but you know, really, if Raj wants to, he could go on like chump block duty to Mum. So you're not really going to race it. But it's a good start.
Yeah, and I do my Dreadhorde Arcanist. It's dire, and this is the most dire part because I'm just like, you've got lethal. You've definitely got lethal. That's no problem. And look at this: Flicker Wisp flickers. And then puts away my Dreadhorde because the plan was, obviously...
Yeah, can't get a cantrip.
Yeah, get a cantrip out of it. Yeah. But, this is talk about play to your outs. Playing to your outs is probably the most important thing when you're down. So you just do it. So the advantage of cantripping 4 times in a game, right? Where you're just like... I slammed it and he immediately puts his Flicker Wisp into the bin and I'm like, yeah, but what if I name Mum? So I point to Mum, like, what if I name Human? and he's like, oh yeah, you can if you want. I'm like, no, I'm not going to.
He is so far behind now.
Yeah. So
like he can stall out a bit with Mum, but really, that's
But so you can see how like this line was not available. This eventuality was not available to me if I played like a control player and tried to manage the board.
Do the braids.
Yeah. Instead, I'm like, no, you need to play to this specific out because the upside of that out is huge. And versus the downside of both situations, which is, hey, something goes wrong, turns out I die to Flicker Wisp, Flicker Wisp.
And now you get to untap and do that. A braid and brazen and a braid and whatever else.
Correct.
You're looking pretty good.
Yep. So he's got the Mirren Crusader in hand.
Just too slow though. Oh,
here comes Swords to Plowshares.
Swords isn't bad. And he does it on the Dreadhorde, not the Gurmag. I guess he's scared of the Preordain. I think it's probably correct.
I think it's 100% correct here. Like
because Mum can chump and...
Yeah.
Well, Critic can chump.
Yeah, exactly. Mum can chump the Gurmag. He can also double block the Plague Engineer and then protection from Black his mum.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, and just get rid of the Plague Engineer.
I like that a lot actually. And then you're trading off Recruiter and then you're on 10 life and you've got Mum versus Gurmag, which is
and it burns removal spells from my hand because he probably does this prot, and then I kill
he's just taking it?
No, he takes it. So he's
Surely you block there, right?
No, it's mainly because he's thinking about Mirren Crusader. He's like, if Mirren Crusader wins me the game, that's what he's thinking. He's like, this is just gonna
all right. And he doesn't want, and
he
I
wants
guess
to keep Mum.
He's right. I mean, because you have the removal hand. I just felt like he was a bit far behind to be doing that.
Yeah, I think you could go either way with that one, but yeah. So here's the Abrade.
Okay. So this way.
So he gives protection from red to the Mother of Runes. And now there's an even sweeter play here. Like, you can just Abrade the Mum, right?
Yeah, or you can Abrade the...
No, there's a way sweeter play. Just watch this. I remember this now. I'm just like, this is the play. So, like, as much as I want to... Remember how we're talking about that cute play, you become a control deck? I'm not control. I'm
just hardcast Braceborough?
Yeah, you know it. You got it. Hardcast this, no value.
Yeah.
And then just win, right?
Yeah.
So, like, sometimes, you end up thinking so much about what the correct play is from a particularly entrenched perspective, like a control player perspective or something. But you got to be agile and go like.
Well, this is why Brazen Borrow is good.
Yeah, exactly. It's so flexible, isn't it?
It is flexible, but I agree. People get and I'm guilty myself. I've got like, I want to get that value, but it's not even value because it's bounce, it's tempo.
And see, if you did the second abrade on the mum's dead, but then the Phyrexian Mirror and Crusader is still around. So instead, you leave him with a mum, but you kill the other thing. And the best part about the Borrower is no matter what he plays, unless it's Tomic, you have lethal. Yeah. Because that particular play gets into 3.
That's right. And Flicker Wisp is not... Even the 4th Flicker Wisp doesn't do it. So it's literally one Tomic or bust.
Yeah.
I guess swords, technically. But, yeah, I really like it. I mean, it was the same as my play, because I wasn't going to hit the mum. I was thinking, I'm going to abrade the Mirren Crusader while mum's tapped, because mum's not as relevant as Mirren.
But you're going to do that instead on your turn.
But it's much better to play the threat and then you do it on your turn, exactly. So.
Yeah. So it's like a Delver mindset, right? You just
it's like a free bolt, right? You get a free bolt to the face as well.
Yeah, you just like you want to like as a Delver player, you just want to be ahead all the time. And so how do you engineer a situation where you are ahead? And I had nothing in hand, but the point there was just to keep turning things sideways, and he's on Tomic or bust. And even if he has the Tomic, then you get him to 1, and it's pretty nice.
Sweet. Well played. 2-1 to Sarven, going through to the next round.
I'm undefeated, and hopefully if I win in the next round, I will get another trophy.
Finally get another trophy. He needs them, that's for sure.
Yeah. Gotta catch them all. So thanks for watching, everyone. We will see you in round 4.
See you then.